How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with The Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about issue 1 of an all-new comic book, and this is Shock Shop. Shock Shop, written by Cullen Bunn. You may know him for things like Parasomnia from Dark Horse as well, or Harrow County, also from Dark Horse. He's done a lot of really great horror comics, one of my favorite horror comic writers, and now he's giving us this new book. This is with art by Leiz and by Danny Luckert. And this is the front cover, or is this the front cover? Yeah, this book is kind of unique. Basically, you pick a cover and that will be the story you read, and it goes to the halfway point in the book, and then you flip the book over and you read the other story, and that will also go to the halfway point. So yeah, kind of an interesting idea. I have seen this before. There was a series, Grindhouse Doors Open at Midnight, where half the book would be one story and then half the book would be the other story. Really an interesting concept. So we get sort of 2 mini-issue ones for the price of one. And yeah, I do want to say that is something with this book, is it is 2 issue ones. I thought it would be an anthology story. I thought we would go through and just do one-offs each time. But no, they are 2 starts of 2 different stories. And it really did surprise me how well that worked. You know, issue 1s are always a lot of setup. But I guess 22 pages isn't that long anyway, so, you know, you do 11 pages and you run through it a little quicker, it still somehow works pretty well. And yeah, they're shorter and you read through them quicker, but it doesn't really ever feel too terribly rushed. And yeah, so 2 issue 1s here. Now that being said, I don't know how long each story is going to go. Are we going to get a full 6 issues out of each, or are these going to be shorter runs? I'm not sure, but an interesting concept. A little bit about what's going on. You get this girl, she's going to be your horror host, and the idea is she has a comic book shop, and each of these stories are comics within her shop. You get the first one, which is about a guy, a divorcee, moving out of his apartment and into a house where he finds that there is a spirit there, but this house, even though it's haunted, the spirits seem to be helping him out, so he sort of forms a friendship with these ghosts. And in the other one, you get a young couple on, you know, unsteady grounds for their relationship, and they decide to go camping with a bunch of their friends. And you get a bunch of drama where when they go to bed, their friends kind of argue about who's right or who's wrong in the relationship. And, you know, kind of a well-rounded argument despite it being such a short story. But then something crazy happens, which I won't spoil, but it is a good out-of-the-blue twist. What the heck is going on here? A good, all-of-a-sudden, shocking imagery out of nowhere type story. And I am curious what's going to happen. The first one with the house with the spirits, you know, that looks like it might be in for a really, you know, slow turn. But the second one with the campsite, I'm kind of wondering, you know, are we going to be thrust into danger right away? So they both have, you know, similarities, you know, a guy being divorced versus a couple on the rocks, and then they encounter something crazy and supernatural, but other than that, they're very different, and, you know, it shakes things up when you go between the two. So I am kind of curious where they're going to go in the future and how long these runs will be. But overall, I thought it was fun. We get a fun new horror host. A cool book. Without further ado, I'm going to switch to the close-up camera. We're going to talk about these stories in a little bit more detail. And I'll go ahead and, you know, show you guys a little bit of the art, but I still won't do any spoilers. So if you want to see the book closer up, we're going to switch to the close-up camera. Alright, here we are inside the castle taking a closer look at Shock Shop #1. I guess first take a look at the first cover, and this has your host there, and she's got a whole bunch of monsters behind her. A zombie that's probably a vampire, there's the mummy, and then a whole bunch of, like, I don't know, a thing-like creature there. You get the barcode right there, so this is the main cover. I think they do have variants, although with 2 covers, what would variants look like? Also, Dark Horse logo, number 1, and $3.99. And we get to see this credit line, and since Cullen Bunn's the same writer, but everyone else kind of changes, well, except for the letterer. But we get a different credit line on the top on the other side, and we get these 2 skulls in an embrace with a little bit of their spines. And then we see the forest growing on top of them with the moon behind it. A dark, creepy cover, but overall not as eye-catching as the character splash, so I feel it should be displayed this way. I'm not sure which one should come first. I always read it with this side first, with the haunted house story. The barcode can be on the front or the back of books these days, but if we actually open it up to the middle, we get this image there of her telling you to turn the book around, but this little to be continued message actually does list the campsite story first, which I kind of felt that that's weird because when we actually do look at the introductions, the haunted house story actually has her opening up the shop, and then the other side, we're inside the shop. So all indications would really point to this being the first story, the haunted house story, but at the end it says no, the other one's first, so I don't know. But anyway, I guess without further ado, let's take a closer look at each of these stories. I'm not going to be doing any major spoilers, but I will show you guys a bit of the story and a bit of the art. And on the inside of the book, they have taped up, I guess, a sort of cover of what these would look like if they were the single issue she's trying to sell you. And we see that this is Familiars, issue number 1. And here we get our host, and she's opening the shop up in what appears to be the zombie apocalypse. She's got her chainsaw, and she's got an octopus tentacle coming out of the shop. But she says her name is, and I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Desdemona Nemu Moreau. No idea if I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, and she's even got a little gargoyle on the corner of her shop there. But she's welcoming us to the book, and then she's going to recommend a comic, which is going to be this. But we also see she has comics, games, records, and graveside services. Always good for a fun little gag there. But anyway, we open up with Familiars, and we see this house has just sold. Not a bad house, but definitely a little run down. And there's the realtor, and they're going to walk and talk, and he'll bring up his divorce, and that he has a few kids that he only gets to see from time to time. Now, every now and then, the panels will turn red, and he'll hear a strange noise. And he looks, he's like, maybe it's the pipes, I don't know. But this is the final inspection, and there he gets his key, so it's his house now. Well, he has a hard day of moving, and he's all tired, and he says, I really need to set things up. But he's tired, and he goes to sleep. He wakes up, and he goes, where did I pack the coffee? And we get another one of those red flashes, and the house is all set up and nice. And he's like, what the heck's going on? But at the same time, it's nothing bad. He's a guy who's been through a tough divorce, and even though it's supernatural, the spirits made him coffee, and he's happy that he's gotten something nice. So yeah, even though he's a little, shaken by the fact that ghosts are doing something for him, he's overall and doesn't mind it too much, And this is one of those things that if we were in a longer story, he probably would take more time to accept it. But we have to go through this fast. We only have half a normal issue there. But he does get his kids for 3 days, and there's his ex-wife there and her new husband. And he is going to show his kids that he lives in a magical house. But of course, maybe not everything is as it seems. I do have a recommendation for you guys. If you guys like the haunted house, but with a seemingly nice ghost concept, a little bit ago, Image put out a book, The Me You Love in the Dark. That one also did a concept kind of like this, and that was really good. So if you like the familiars, I would recommend The Me You Love in the Dark. Anyway, flipping it over, and now we get the second story. I say second, even though the book referred to it as a first, because now we're inside the shop, and I think that makes a lot more sense as we're outside than we go inside. And this story is called Something in the Woods in the Dark. And we get a guy with his little lamp there, and she is showing you around the shop. And we get things like Mask based on the Universal monsters, and, you know, like a little spell book and doll parts. But we also get a comic book rack, and if you're Cullen Bunn fans, I think you may recognize a few of these. You know, there's Harrow County, and there's Manor Black. So yeah, a few stuff for Cullen Bunn fans, and also there's some critters running around on the bottom. You know, there's a creature peeking in through the floorboards, and some mice. So that's pretty cool. Anyway, the next book she recommends to you is about this group of people. They go camping. It's a bunch of friends, and I think there's like 8 of them or something, so a pretty large group there. And they start telling stories around the campfire, and it's actually real stories. And he's like, oh yeah, that was the time I broke my arm, and I can still feel when a storm's coming. But this one guy gives a toast, and he goes, a toast to old pals, new friends, and fresh starts. And that's going to get this redheaded woman feeling a little awkward when he says fresh starts. But what exactly does that mean? Her husband goes into the tent to try to comfort her, and they, you know, and she says, this trip is probably a mistake, and we end with this sad panel where they're looking away from each other. And, well, after that, we get a bit of a discussion, which I won't show you every panel of, but we get to see them arguing back and forth as to who's right and who's wrong in this. And some people think that that the guy's right, some people think it's the girl, and other people are somewhere in the middle. Like this couple seems to kind of want to stay out of it and just saying, hey, don't yell so loud they'll hear, you know. So we do get a sort of well-rounded analysis of this relationship. But then after that, we get one guy who decides that he needs to go out, and I won't even turn the page because that's when the spoilers start. But he says, I'm going to go in the woods to go pee really quick, and then I'm going to go to bed. Well, let's just say he's the first one to wander off and go into the woods. He's going to see the crazy, dark, and messed up twist. And yeah, it does get pretty crazy after that. I won't spoil what he finds in the woods, but yeah, it's something I really wasn't expecting. And yeah, it's one of those where character analysis, realism, drama, all that stuff, and then we go into the woods. Crazy, shocking moment, and I really do wonder what's going to happen in issue 2 with that. So yeah, much more of a direct cliffhanger for the second one. And overall, I find both stories are pretty interesting, and I do kind of wonder what's going to, because, it's half a book length for each one. About 11 pages. I didn't count them. But half a book length for each one, but they still got me hooked about as much as a regular issue 1 would. And one thing I'm wondering is, as I go on, and as I read through the issues, because, a lot of times, the thing with comics, reading them month by month, is you go in, you get a cool story, and you're like, that's cool, and then it's over and you have to wait a whole month. And with having even less pages for that to stick in your head, I wonder how long that will stick in your head. You know, if these will be harder to make that full month jump because they're even shorter, or, you know, like I said, they still felt about as good as an issue 1 each one. Maybe Cullen Bunn's gonna be good enough where he can get a full issue's worth of content in half an issue, and maybe it will only feel about like a regular read of month to month would. I don't know. So I am gonna see how this continues in the future. And like I said, I also don't know how long the stories are going to be. They could be where it's only 2 issues, or they could be 3, 4, 5, or 6, you know. So I am curious too how long the runs are, and I really wish that we were in the days when they would say plot arc number 1 of how many, which Marvel's Alien actually does. But overall, I think this is pretty cool. And I'm hoping, you know, that this formula does work. Anyway, if you guys have read it, tell me what you thought about it. Were they too short? Or did you like this flip book thing? Anyway, to everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll leave a relevant playlist on the bottom. This should be my Cullen Bunn playlist. I've reviewed things like Parasomnia and issue 1 of Harrow County. I've covered a few Cullen Bunn stuff, so if you want to see more, you can click right there and see more. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Cullen Bunn playlist on the bottom. Have a good day now.